I'm never sure if we're started, so I always like wait like 1 or 2 seconds. Should be good. All right, we're joined this hour by artist, painter, gallery owner, community organizer, youth organizer, just one of like really kind of the most preeminent Chicano artists working today. I can't go anywhere and do a show at any kind of central without a portrait or something that Jake Prendez had his hands on in creating, not hanging over my head. The man looms large. And we're really, really, really honored to have him here. This is a Dawes Center for the Arts presentation. The Dawes Center for Arts is a not-for-profit based in Pomona, California, and we're an art gallery and art space, and we're really there to uplift the community there in Pomona. And now that the world's on the internet, I guess the world. So we're really, really, really honored to be joined today by Jake Prendez. So Jake, I want to get to where you're at now and what you're doing and all the incredible things you're associated with at this point in time. But I want to start the story at the beginning, right? Because I want to get to before you became Mr. Prendez. Back to the story of little Jake. So tell us, how did you start first knowing that you wanted to be an artist?
Well, actually, so do y'all remember those like Disney and like Dr. Seuss books? Like you would like order them and they come in the mail every month. You get another book or something like that. Like when you were a kid. So my parents used to give me those books, right? And I used to just like take stacks of them into the living room, and I would just like be looking through the books. And my parents were like, "Oh, Mijo's gonna be a great reader. He's always got books and all this stuff." And it was no, I hate reading. Mijo loves art. I just love looking at all those pictures, and I think that's probably like the birth of the artist, was just looking at all these picture books and things like that as a kid. Um, but yeah, so I was obsessed with art. I was always drawing. Um, you know, I have dyslexia, but it was undiagnosed in elementary, and my parents wanted me tested for dyslexia when I was um, like in first grade, and the school refused. They were like, "Oh no, he's not dyslexic. We don't need to test him. It's an expensive test. They just didn't
Yeah,
want to pay for it."
yeah,
So,
they're probably not dyslexic, just Mexican. They're not smart. Yeah.
so what they
Jesus.
did is they just put me in these like special ed, special help classes.
Mm.
Or when we would get to like math or science and spelling and things that I suck at, they just stick me in the coat room with maybe a couple other kids, and it's just really humiliating. It's like, okay, guys, I'm gonna go in the coat room now. See you at recess, and it's like I know why I'm going in there. Y'all know why I'm going in there. Like I'm dumb.
Yeah.
Um, and it just seemed like the only thing I was good at in school was art, and drawing and things like that. And I was that kid that was always drawing, and Jake, pay attention. Like, no, I'm drawing. And by the time I got to kind of middle school, especially high school, I kind of knew like, oh, I love art. I can't wait for art classes and things like that. Um, even the art teachers didn't like me. I by that time I was a little cholo kid, and um, there's two things that teachers don't like. They don't like the cholo kid, and they don't like the class clown, and I was both. So I spent more time getting kicked out of the classroom than like in the classroom. Um, but even my art teachers were telling, and this is like I was born out in Hemet, which if past Riverside, but I grew up in the Seattle area, in like a pretty much all white, you know, area back, especially in the '80s, '90s, uh, and so I had these like white art teachers that didn't understand what I was drawing, and I'm drawing like lowriders and pachucos and things like that, and they were just telling me like your art's too ethnic, it's too gangster, things like that that just kind of dissuaded me from art, right? And when you don't at that age, I didn't have, I guess, that value of voice. I didn't know how to defend myself, and so you just take authority as like, oh, okay, well, so I didn't know at that time. I really didn't know how to defend myself, so I just kind of took it, and um, pretty much from the time I was 19 till I was in my 30s, I didn't do art. I stopped doing art. and I did ethnic studies. So I ended up barely graduating high school, went to a community college, had a kid really young. That kind of turned me around, and it's like, oh my God, now like I got a kid that's depends on me is like living. So got myself straight and went to college and went to university, did ethnic studies, went on, got a master's in Chicano studies. Was still interested in art and didn't, my senior thesis for college was Chicano art, and my master's thesis was called The Art of Rebellion, Social Justice, and Chicano Visual Arts. So I was still, even though I wasn't creating art, I was still in love with art, and I ended up taking, like, as an elective part of my grad program, a painting class. It was a Chicano studies class, but it was a painting class with Irene Cervantes, famed Chicana artist, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I fell in love with art. And this is like probably 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
And actually 13 years ago, 2007. So, yeah, that's where I just fell in love with art and been painting ever since. And it's funny, I've done some posts about it. And I've posted like the first painting I ever did, right? It was a self portrait. And I talk about like, this painting's a piece of shit, um, but at the time I thought like, damn, I'm good, like, I'm happy I liked it, because I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and I kept at it, and every painting you paint is a little better than the last one, right? So
Mhm.
your skill set improves and you get better over time, and I would paint just kind of for myself, right? And I would paint things that I wanted, like I would paint, Che, and I'd paint the Beatles, and I'd paint the Clash, and I'd paint, Ruben Salazar and things like that.
Yeah, Chicano stuff.
Yeah, and it was just for me, more or less.
Right.
But then I think you develop as an artist, and you just the concepts, the ideas become more fluid. They have more depth, and there's more idea behind them. They're more conceptual, and that just happens, I think, over time and with experience. And um, so, in retrospect, I'm glad I have this background in studies, Chicano studies, because um, I can, like, I have this ideology and this depth of studies that I apply to my art, and culture, and all these things that I was robbed of. My family were robbed of as far as culture. Like, I'm third generation, like our culture's been stolen from us, and my grandparents were that generation that were migrant farm workers that, when they were kids, they were told, like, don't speak Spanish. They were, punished for speaking Spanish in school. So, like, they didn't teach my mom and all her sisters how to speak Spanish, right? Thinking, like,
Mhm.
we got to Americanize. That's what was force fed them,
Yeah.
So it's this reclaiming of culture and a repatriation of culture, and that comes out in the art now. So I'm glad all these experiences happened the way they did, because it's who I am, and the art that's created is all a part of that.
Mhm.
Um, I do, get a little pissed when I think, like, man, like, if I didn't listen to, I call them, soul crushers. If I didn't listen to those folks and I had just kept with painting, like, how good would I be with an extra 10 years of experience, right?
Mhm.
That's the only thing I think I kind of wish, you know, was different. Uh, but, the path is the path, and it's where I am now.
Right to where we are. So for our audience who might be a little unfamiliar, because this is going to be seen by a wide array of people, can you speak to just how unique and special Chicano Studies is over at the CSUN with the program they have going there?
Yeah, the Chicano Studies program at CSUN is like the premier Chicano Studies program in the nation. It's, uh, I did my undergrad at University of Washington, and I think, it was ethnic studies and a concentration in Chicano studies. And we had probably 3 or 4 professors in Chicano studies. And that probably half of them weren't even full time, right? I go to CSUN for my master's, and it was like 80 professors in Chicano studies. So it's going from like 4 to 80, and that's not, obviously not all full time, but that's a lot of professors. And one of the great things about that is because you have, so many professors and you have so many different courses, right? And you get such a wide variety um, of coursework that you're able to take, right? Like, where else are you gonna take a Chicano painting class, right? I took a Chicana art class. Literally, was just Chicana artists, right? So, like, where else are you gonna find that? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, so you know Chicano psychology, like Chicano adolescent psychology, like there's just
Yeah.
musicology of the Chicano. Like there's just such a wide variety and array of courses there, and and uh, speak, you got Rudy Acuna, right? That's all you got to do. Like, oh, Rudy Acuna teaches there, and literally Rudy was the guy who talked me into going to CSUN. We brought him up to do a lecture at University of Washington, and he talked me into moving down to LA and doing the Chicano Studies program there. And I think the funny thing is, University of Washington's on a quarter system, right? And Cal States are all on the semester system. And um, so I got admitted into the program thinking of starting in um, spring. I was like, oh, okay, probably March. I'll get, and so like it was probably the beginning of January, and I called them up and just be like, hey, like when should I probably like move down? When do courses start? And they're like, in 2 weeks. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, oh crap! Like, so like I literally moved to LA with like 2 weeks notice, um, and was in LA for almost 14 years, I believe. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really, it must have been really quite an experience to go from, being a teenager and being told, your paintings are too ethnic, or they're too gangster. They're just like, nobody wants to see that. Nobody, essentially being told that your paintings are criminal, right?
yeah,
And then now go to CSUN, and there's like, the psychology of Chicana artists from 1976 to 1970, like the highly specialized.
yeah.
It's not valorized; it's specialized. That must have been complete.
And it's not just like the campus. Like I think CSUN had 38% Latino students.
Mhm.
Like I think that's the highest, or they had the highest number of Latino students, I think, in the nation. Cal LA has the highest percentage, but they don't have as many because it's a smaller college. But
Right.
um, so it's going from, I think we were like maybe 7% at University of Washington to 38. And he's like, oh, here's where you all were at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just that feeling when I moved back to Southern California of I felt right. If that makes sense. Like I always felt off in Seattle and Washington. Just I never understood what it was. I just never felt right. And moved back to LA, and it was like, okay, I all these things that I thought were awkward about me, these are normal here. And it's just I tell people living in LA is what probably it's like for white folks living anywhere else in the country, where like you're not the other, right?
Right.
You like the culture revolves around you. Like you can buy pan dulce in the regular ass, Ralph's grocery store. Like you can just the paletero walks, in front of your house. The lotero walks by your house. You go get some tamales at the Food for Less driving lot or parking lot, right? Like it's just cultura's there, like, and it's where I'm white as hell looking, right? I'm hella wet, like no one's ever like mistaken me for Mexican, like Um, and when I moved, like no one ever questioned it, right? You're just assumed like if you're in LA, you're Latino, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
attitude,
Yeah. Yeah.
and no one ever questioned my Chicano ness, right? In LA, And and when I moved back to Seattle, man, right off the bat, it was like, you don't look Mexican. I was like, oh God, I
Huh.
forgot. This is what it's like to be the other. You know, it just we're back to.
Yeah, back to not looking Mexican. Oh man, I put on like sombrero and whatnot. Yeah.
Well, I had
So
to wear this sarape hat, or they would not know.
that's wrong of you to try and sneak up on us like that. You know, you gotta announce yourself, man. Like, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you be Mexican and not be obvious about it?
I know.
So in addition to like being an artist and a visual artist, I really want to get into your work in a moment. But you're also like you're a real community minded guy. I mean, you do a lot to put on other artists, and create platforms. Can you talk a little bit about Puro Pedo magazine and what was that all about?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about Season 2 was just the energy and the vibe, and so much so many things were happening, right? And it's just kind of you're in this when you like this energy in the building, right? And there's the Chicano lobby in Jerome Richfield. You've probably been in there, right? Um, and you'll go in there and it's like you'll study or whatever, and there's folks on their laptops, but there's like people practicing their trio groups, and there's folks doing like teatro, and like all these things are kind of being birthed out of there. um, and one of the things that I used to, I don't know if y'all remember, but Cultural Magazine, um, it was this rascuache like zine back in like late 80s, early 90s. Uh, really big around 187 at that time. Lalo Acras, Esteban School, a lot of those guys were part of that. And it was the funniest shit ever. But it was like hardcore Chicano fucking down shit. And
Yeah.
I love it when I was in my undergrad, um, and then they weren't doing the magazine anymore, and there was this void, and it was like, man, like we used to joke, like everyone was getting so serious, and it's like, man, we would joke around like, hey fools, even Che laughed. Uh, so I wanted to do this, Chicano comedy satire zine, like Pocho, and kind of fill that void. And I hit up just a bunch of my like the funniest, you know, machistas and homeboys and homegirls that I knew, and um, just hit them up like, hey, I want to do this satire magazine, man. Are y'all down? And um, we got just some amazing folks that Ralph De Unamuno, Eric Iniguez, um, Cholo Portilla, um, Tessa Somok Vasquez, Beatty Cruz, Sika Lozano. Like we had a bunch of folks, and yeah, it was just kind of if you like the Onion and um, like a Chicanx version of the Onion, like best way to describe. And it would
Yeah.
be stuff um, we did one. It was about charter schools and what charter schools do and things like that. But
Yeah.
but the article was Hogwarts to open school of wizardry in Boyle Heights. So so it was just like the satirical look at but we're talking about real issues. We did one about Chicanos Mexicanos like moving into like small towns, and it's in like kind of gentrification, but we called it chenteification. We missed the genteification. Like, oh man, when all that I was like, damn it, we
Yeah.
missed the word. But we went with gentification. Um,
Gentrification is a lot funnier. I mean, gentrification that's more like serious. It's more like like we're it's not gentrification, it's gentrification. But like gentrification is hilarious.
but yeah, so we did things like that. Like we did a bunch of like kind of lists, like top 10 lists, like
Mm.
top 10 lists that your barrio's been gentrified, and it was like koi fish tattoos now outnumber Aztec tattoos. Um, what else? Oh, like what not to say on Peace and Dignity runs. Just things like that. Like,
That's hilarious. So this is going to be end up being seen by a wide cross section of people. So not everyone's going to have the same like frame of references and so on. So could you tell our audience a little bit about Lalo Alcaraz and how his like political, cartoons and political brand of humor,
yeah,
and who he is and how and may how it may or may not have influenced you.
yeah. So Lalo's one of my heroes, man. So this fool, he, I think he started out with Chicano Secret Service up at Berkeley. So him, Elias Serna, Tomas Carrasco. I think there were some more folks. He ends up leaving the group. I think just moves back to kind of SoCal or whatever. And so Chicano Secret Service then just kind of Elias, Tomas, and Tomas's sister, um, and they're hilarious as well. But and then Lalo gets he's his own syndicated comic strip. So he does La Cucaracha that's still going in the like LA Times, a syndicated comic strip. He did that Otro magazine. He has a radio show called the Power that Pocho Hour of Power. That's on I think K, I don't listen to
KPFK.
it.
KPFK.
Yeah, so this dude's been now like lately. He's even I think he's got like he was a cultural consultant for Coco and he's working with that Nickelodeon. I think it's Nickelodeon cartoon Casa Grandes and yeah. So this dude's just honestly, if he wasn't Chicano, if this dude was white, he'd be famous as hell, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
um, but like to me, he's fucking uber famous. Like this is the main dude, and yeah, look up his stuff, man. Lalo
yeah.
Alcaraz, like if you're watching this, look up his stuff. Look up La
Yeah.
Cucaracha comic strip and follow him. And dude gets more hate mail than anyone I know. Like right
Yeah.
people love, you know, they love
Yeah,
him up.
right there with Gustavo. Actually, Lalo came to one of these posts and he started trolling
Oh,
everybody. One of these things. Right now, we're being trolled by not trolled. Right now, we got actually somebody tuning in, Rick Nahara, talking about how he's a güero and he feels your pain, and if he wants people to know that he's Mexican, he's got to stand next to a cactus wearing a sombrero. Got the
well,
cactus right there, Jake. I see it.
I had a homeboy at CSUN that was also like Weddle. We would joke around that we were gonna start the beige berets.
There was a was Gabriel Gutierrez teaching at CSUN when you were there?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, was just emailing that fool yesterday. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, he was actually on my thesis committee.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's another really cool dude, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I was over at one of his friends when he went to school with a professor over at Cal State Dominguez Hills, Jose Prado. They were telling these stories when they were all in school together. I think in Santa Barbara, and they were telling this story about how they had one of their friends was a little güero, and the cops pulled him over, and they were like, like um, what are you doing? They looked at me like, what are you doing with these Mexicans? And the ghoul was so offended, not because he was asked this horrible racist question, but because he's like, oh, I too am Mexican.
Dude, that happened to me too. Like I was actually with one of my black homeboys when we were in
Yeah.
high school, and this cop stopped us. It was like harassing us, and he called me Snoop Doggy Cracker. And I'm pissed, not because this racist motherfucker, but because he didn't realize I was Mexican.
How dare you?
Are you
Yeah, yeah,
get your
yeah,
racial right, you jerk?
get it right. Get it right. Oh my God, that's amazing. But so much of your work is about the reclamation of culture and but not just the reclamation. You have such a playful relationship with things. It's not like this like very, very serious. Like everything has to be, a certain kind of way. Like you really, you know, I could tell that you have a very strong familiarity with the subject that you're painting, and you're just, it's flowing out of you. I got a chance to watch some videos, and I remember I watched this one video where you talked about that some nights you feel like kind of like the ancestors are with you, right?
Yeah.
And on those nights, I mean, you tell, don't let me tell a story. You
But you know, I'll go back a little, and I think it'll explain a little bit of the paintings as well. Um, but back in the day, when I was first starting to paint, um, we were celebrating there were three of us that had birthdays that were like within the same couple weeks, right? And so they threw us like this big birthday party for the three of us. Uh, I won't name names, but two of them for UCLA Machistas and me. And so like I was drunk early on, and then someone came and brought this edible brownie that was the size of a Ziploc bag. Like it just was the whole Ziploc bag was this edible brownie, right? Now I don't smoke weed and I don't eat edibles, right? So she gave it to me. I was like, oh, thanks, cool, and I just kind of put it in my pocket. Well, I got hungry later in the evening, and I'm like, oh, hey, I got this brownie in my pocket. Ate the whole brownie,
oh no.
and I was tripping, right? I was gone. Anyways, that night, I had a vision. We're talking like Thunderheart vision. Old man waits his whole life for a vision. Here comes this instant Indian, has himself a vision. So I had like, so I had this vision of the elders
Okay.
around the fire, and they were doing ceremony at the fire, and they were praying for me. And so I knew that they were my ancestors. And so when I woke up, I realized, damn, I'm okay because my ancestors prayed for me. My ancestors prepared for me, right? So that was like actually this really like awakening moment in my life, and I think my work really took on kind of this influence of indigenismo, right? And I started working a lot with kind of tapping into my own ancestors, right? Like and connecting like to my people and my indigenous roots and things like that, where you know um, just that yeah reclaiming culture like we're talking about. Um, so, anyways, um, I'm on this kind of new track with my art. I'm following kind of these ideas that are just a little more conceptual. They're more thought out. They're deeper. It's about connection um, to my roots. And then the second part, now I'll add what you were asking just a second ago.
I don't remember. I mean, that I was moved by your brownie story. I was like, I was gonna cry. No, well, I got a new question. I got a new statement, but and then a question. So when I look at your work, I see like yes, I see a call to the ancestral past. I see, like the time before colonization. I see all that, right? But what I see in your work, which I don't see in most people's work, is that they're having fun. Like everyone else,
Oh, okay.
they're just
So
about
you
to go
talk about
kill somebody, or they're about to like defend they're fighting the conquistadors, or they're like standing and looking at the lost territory, or but your vision is that they're having fun. I mean,
yeah. So now I remember you were asking about
yeah,
the nights that the ancestors are just with you and
right,
painting.
right, 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 right.
And so yeah, I think the satire comes out in my work, right? I like just throwing in some wit and satire, and it might just be with the title of the painting. It might be actually the painting itself, or um, but I'm not that serious of a person, so it comes out. But
Yeah,
there, when you're talking about like, there's nights I'll be painting and nothing's working. I feel like I can't draw a stick figure, And those nights, it's just you pack it in. It's just not your night. Um, don't force it. But then there's other nights where you're painting and it just feels like, man, someone's guiding your paintbrush and you're just like, that's the best ear I've ever painted in my life. And and you just go with it, right? And so yeah, so I've learned to accept it, right? If there's nights where it's just not working, I'm not in the mood or something. I just pack it in. It's cool, like no big deal. Um, but the nights that it's on, the nights that I'm just into it, everything's working for me. Every stroke is exactly what I wanted. I just go with it, and it just I was doing a painting once, and it's the one. It's me, and I have a paintbrush, and kind of looking up, and this girl kind of floating away. And the person said, "You realize that the model like pointed out like when I was done, she's like, you realize like that looks like the vision, my envision serpent." And I was like, "What?" I was like wow. And I looked at it, and the positioning was exactly the same, right? And it wasn't, and I didn't have that picture, I didn't have that reference, I wasn't doing it on purpose. It's just okay. Ancestors were there that night, and just you accept those nights.
Yeah, yeah. And then you have enough of those nights, and you get to become Jake Prendez. So, no, I mean, you're the man, man. So I want to talk to you. I want to ask you about "Don't Be Self-Conscious." What was the inspiration for that, and how was the success of that particular print? How's that affected your career?
Yeah, so I was super involved in the LA, kind of East LA Chicanx art scene, right? I was um had all like the caminartes and East LA art walks and all those events, and hang with a lot of really cool folks, um, out by Mariachi Plaza, like East Side Love and stuff like that. And I describe it like it must have been what the Harlem Renaissance was like, just to be hanging with such amazingly talented folks that end up becoming like famous, and like these people that I'm just seeing at the bar, at events, are now like La Santa Cecilia, Chicano Batman, Las Cafeteras, Ernesto Irena, like these big name folks. And they were just other poets and artists, and those just hanging out. And I feel like I joke around like I was a Chicano Forrest Gump. Like I was just in these like really cool things and didn't belong there necessarily. Like I just was lucky enough to be there, kind of. But the great thing with that environment, you see someone that paint something, you're like, wow, like, and I got to paint something that great, So you're always being positively motivated, right? I got to step up my game. These people are talented, and I got to keep it up, right? I got to be like that. And so it just built up. And I don't think I really had a name at the time. Like, everyone like recognized me, knew who I was, but like, just kind of was art. Like I didn't have a big name or anything. Um, and yeah, I think the um, Don't Be So Conscious was one of the first that kind of put me on the map. And I would joke around. I was like, I'm the biggest artist you've never heard of. Like, like back in the day. And yeah, that one just went viral. And the whole idea is just, I was, just, I always think of a lot of just funny ideas. I'll usually write them in a journal or on my phone or something like that and get to a painting later on. But I just like that. Don't be self conscious. And, just eating a concha and just kind of came up with it. And the thing is, as soon as I thought of it, I started painting it, right? I Google "Don't Be Self Conscious," like just make sure I'm the first person that's thought of this,
Right,
right?
right, right, right.
And at the time, there was a picture of a girl with a zine. She's like holding the zine up, and it said "Don't be self conscious." I was like, "Shit!" Someone thought of it, So it was an original idea, but I can't claim to be the first, right?
Right, right, right. I like
And
that.
so I always get people like when and now like everyone's "Don't be." Don't Be Self-Conscious. Like there's thousands of versions of it, which is cool. It's cool to see all these different interpretations of this.
Yeah.
People all, but every time, man, someone posts something, they will like tag me. Look, they're ripping off your work, man, and I'm just like, nah, it's cool. Like, like
But
they didn't rip it off. I have to go
yeah,
through that whole story. There was an original idea, but
yeah.
someone else thought of it first.
But you,
But yeah, that's the model's my daughter.
mm.
And the funny thing is, she's like super shy and quiet. And I tease her, and I'm like, Mija, like you're literally the poster child for "Don't Be Self-Conscious," and you're self-conscious. She's like, I know. But yeah, so that one just got really popular, and then I did the follow up with "True Don't Know My Life," and that was modeled with Sipatli, a really dope Chicana rapper in East LA, and but the thing is, like with that, like I talk about like in my lectures and stuff like that, touring like you, hitting the college campuses and all that,
Mhm.
is that my art by a lot of like some like "Don't Be So Conchas," you look at that and you're like, that's not that political. It's just a girl with a concha. Like, but I tell people like my art is full of cultural triggers, right? Um, like to me, a concha means something special. Like it's not
Mhm.
just a delicious pastry, but like when I was a kid, like my abuelito would take me to the swap meet every Saturday. My mom would drop me off in the morning, and he would have a concha and sweet tea ready for me when I'd get there, right? And so like that's a really special thing, a concha. And when I moved to Seattle,
Mhm.
my grandparents would send me. They would send us like a box of pan dulce,
Mhm.
and by the time we would get it though, it's like all hard, and we'd have to put like butter on it and put it like warm it up in the oven, just like so. Like yeah, so this is how hard. Like now I see,
Seattle life is rough.
pan- panaderias, so like, but
Yeah,
back in the day, in the '80s, and we were struggling for it. So
it's real.
it means a lot to me, man.
But that's,
But you see something, and you're gonna there's this cultural trigger. You're gonna feel something. It's gonna bring back memories. It's gonna bring back something to you, and
mhm.
that's the important. It's that culture is um, revolutionary, right? That maintaining our culture, that cultural survival, that cultural resilience is revolutionary in itself. Um, and so, yeah, I put a lot of cultural triggers in there. So it might not seem just all super political, but it's kind of like maybe like a white person that like that hasn't grown up around Latinx culture, especially Mexicanos, Latinos, or Chicanos, might not know what a concha is, right? But maybe you see that painting, and then there's another Chicano next to you, and you can kind of like, I get it, okay, I see what's there, and there's a connection, right?
Yeah.
And it bridges community, like, okay, yeah, I see what's happening here. I understand it, you understand it. We have this connection now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of there's a simplicity to it, but there's a kind of a genius in the simplicity. Like
Yeah,
it's like I know people that write like I don't know like Smokey Robinson or something like that. Like he wrote these very very simple songs, but it's like nobody else strung those very simple perfect words together. So I mean,
yeah,
nobody else thought to put that simple, very simple idea. Don't be self-conscious. Have a concha, and like nobody else thought to do it that level of with that level of completion. So there's an artistry to that. There's it's definitely there's a reason it went viral. There's definitely a reason why it went viral.
yeah, and yeah,
And why,
and a lot, my art just developed from there. And I think a lot of instant, like people were following me, and then um, then they would just they kept following me because the other work had some depth to it. You know, um, wasn't like one funny painting, just a bunch of shit paintings.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was funny. It was a quality funny painting, and they found more high quality and humor. I mean, what I really really admire about your work is that there is there's a certain cultural responsibility, being as prominent as you are, being as seen as you are, to tell the story of the people. But you do it with humor. You do it with a kind of a sly tip of the cap, and that's really important. That's really important because it's more honest, it's more real, it's more fully developed, it's more fully fleshed out. It's not like it's
Yeah,
not for a white audience. You know what I mean?
yeah, and in my art, I don't try to exclude anybody, but I'm also not trying to pander to like another community, right? Or try and I still paint for my people. If other folks enjoy it more, it's all the better and awesome and stuff like that. But I'm not trying to paint for other people.
Yeah, yeah,
If my gente gets it, I'm happy, and my gente is the one that are supporting me and buying all the prints and paintings and things like that. So, that's my people's.
yeah.
You know,
I remember reading a review last year of the movie Roma, by somebody in the New Yorker, and they said something to the effect of like, it's a good movie, but like there's a lot in there that's unexplained and blah 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 blah. But this exact same guy wrote a book, about Jean-Luc Godard, right? And there's like so much that's not explained in a Godard film, right? Or all that fucking weird stuff. And so, but like but this kind of thing with the woman was like, why aren't the Mexicans explaining themselves to me, right?
yeah,
And it was really really angry about that. And so what I really love about your work is you don't take your time to explain things to people outside. You're not taking your time to be like, here's my translation of
yeah,
of my painting that's in English. Like,
yeah. No, I'm completely agree. I think there's the importance of narrative. When you were talking about movies and books and things like that, we need to tell our stories. We don't need to hear our stories from other folks. Um, and I think a lot of times a movie or something's going to get made because white folks get on board and they're like, oh, I love this. But I think when we have the power to tell our own stories authentically, I think everyone benefits from that. Not only our own communities, but people from outside our communities. If they're getting a raw, authentic narrative, they're going to be there for it. You know, um, so yeah, there's power in that and telling our stories from our own point of view.
yeah. All right. So you're here in LA, then you return to Seattle, um, and you start up, the building you're in right now, the gallery. Can you tell us a little about your gallery?
Yeah, so um, I worked in higher ed for almost 15 years. Um, and art was always my side hustle. And about 3 years ago now, I decided to be a full time artist. I got let go from a job because I didn't recruit enough students into the program. Like, had nothing to do with the job I was actually doing with the students. Like, I thought, I'm like doing this amazing job with these students and getting these kids to not drop out of school and all this stuff, but didn't recruit enough. Um, and so I was just a little upset that I devoted that much time of my life to I was like so easily thrown away, and I was gonna start applying to other higher ed jobs, and everyone was kind of just telling me like, "Nah, man, your art's blowing up, man. Do art full time." And it's a scary step to take, man. When you're used to a paycheck every month and benefits and all this stuff, like there's that security in it. And I had saved up some money. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do this for the summer. I'm gonna be this artist for the summer. If it works out, um, we'll see. And at the end of the summer, I can just start applying to jobs again. And in the summer, I didn't even touch my savings. And I was like, oh, I'm actually doing okay. Let's extend this a little out. And, a year later, I'm like, hey, I'm actually making more money than I did in higher ed. So it was I got lucky. And then I, put this focus in, that there was this need. One of the things when I first moved to Seattle, I realized there's some amazing, talented Latinx artists up in Seattle, but there was just like fragmentation, like no one knew each other. You had someone like in the North End, someone in the South End, someone, in Everett, which is like 45 minutes north. Someone in Olympia, like 45 minutes south. And yeah, so there was just this big disconnect, right? And so one of the first things I did was when I got here, we organized this event, it was called the Pop Up Mercado, just this marketplace, and started with Ray Morales from Rebels and Scholars up here, and it was a big hit, right? We were just getting huge crowds, and so there was definitely like it proved that there was that need, that there was want for something like this. And then pulling artists together, a lot of them were kind of just vending at the marketplaces and stuff like that. So I got to know a lot of these folks, and they got to meet each other and realize, like, oh wow, there's a bigger community of us than we thought. Um, and so I spent about a year, like, just kind of saving up and um, writing grants and different things just to get this space open. And we opened up, got the keys in October, opened our doors in February of 2019, and it's been a huge success. So there's kind of four parts to the Napantla Cultural Arts Gallery. So we have the gallery wall, and actually, let me show you all our
Yeah.
gallery
Give me
wall.
a tour.
So this is our mural I'm actually in the gallery right now. So this is our Loteria art show. You can't see it right now because we're in quarantine, um, but yeah. So here's some of the art from our Loteria themed art show. Um, so yeah, so every month we have a new exhibition focused on marginalized communities, um, and then we have our gift shop. And I'll show you our. And this is all my art on the wall here. And then the gift shop. So we're able to sell a bunch of really dope art, apparel, jewelry, different stuff. Um, and then the third part to the gallery is a cultural space. So we have like open mic nights. We run a youth arts program in this space. Um, so that's the Próxima Generación Youth Artist Residency. Um, we have usually like 2 community workshops a month. So might be on watercolor, or it might be, we had someone that did how to make nichos. We had someone that did the flores de papel, like around de los huertos and stuff. And those are always free and accessible to community. So we even pay for all the supplies and everything like that. And it just, through grants and things like that that we've received, we're able to give the artist a stipend for leading those workshops and pay for all the supplies so that it's 100% free to community. Um, yeah, so it's I just kind of wanted, some of my favorite places in LA. I just was like, man, I want a place like that here in Seattle. So it was like taking like the art gallery of like a Chimaya and the, cool Chicano store of Espacio 1839 or Mi Vida, or Casi del Pueblo, or, this cultural space of like free community workshops and things like that, of like a Corazon de Pueblo, or, all these places that I benefited, from and loved and enjoyed. I wanted to create a space like that here for the folks in Seattle. Just been overwhelming success, and definitely I want to give a shout out to my girlfriend too, Julia Vitia Gonzalez, who, without her, like none of this would, I wouldn't have been able to do that. She's just amazing, and um, she likes to point out how different we are, but I see that as a plus. Like, she's the yin to my yang, right? She's just amazing at the things I'm not great at, and I'm great at the things she's not so great at.
Yeah,
Uh,
right, right.
it's wonderful to work with someone like that in this space, because she catches all the things that I miss, and she's great design, like aesthetically. Like, I'll just order a bunch of really cool things for the shop, and I'll just put them out, and then she'll come in and make it look pretty. Like, oh my god, like move things around, and
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's been, overwhelming success here in Seattle, and um, we April we were gonna do a Latinx in the Northwest art show, and I got folks like Alfredo Arguin, who's this dude's art is in the Smithsonian, right? This dude's
Wow.
huge, right? And
Yeah.
he's from Seattle, Mexicano, and I think he's lived most of his life in Seattle. But he's a viejito now, but never got, I think, the props that he deserved, man, straight
Right.
up.
Right.
Um, but like I said, his art's in the Smithsonian, like he's amazing. So he's gonna be in the art show. Cecilia Alvarez, I found out, like this is someone that I used to read about in my Chicano history books and famous Chicana artist, and she's in Seattle. And so got just Victor Melendez, Che Lopez, Angelina Villalobos, like all these amazing talented artists, and we wanted to highlight them and show them off to the. So we were actually Knox was supposed to be in Seattle in April, right? And so
Yeah.
look, like let's show the world, let's show the country how amazing the art scene is here in Seattle. And yeah, it was going to be this big. We were going to kind of be the after party for Knox, and it got canceled.
Were you shocked by how long they held out?
What's that?
Were you surprised by how long they held out before canceling?
Um, well, yeah, but I was also like hoping, like, oh man, don't
Maybe they won't
cancel.
go out. Yeah. I had a scheduled panel at Knox, but I also had booked Elliott Bay books,
Mm,
and I was getting ready to send them like 30 books and stuff. I'm really glad I didn't send the books. My God. But like it was yeah, that was a gut check. That's
yeah.
yeah.
So,
So I
well,
want to that kind of transitions to the next question. I kind of want to ask you like how are you doing in this crisis? I mean, I said, are you able to still get your work out there? Are you still thriving, or is it how's it been?
yeah, I'm unbelievably fortunate. Knocking on wood. I've secured some artist grants, some small business grants. Um, that's gonna keep the doors open. That pays the rent. I'm good. Um, so that the that's not going anywhere. When this is all over, we're opening our doors back up. So yeah, like and I'm still getting like online orders. Um, like just now, I got like a right before we started this, I got like an order for some prints, and I was like, crap, I just ran out of shipping tubes.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, so it's going really good, and we were talking before where it's that Chicano psyche. We're not used to victories,
yeah,
so
yeah,
so when shit's good, like we think like, oh wait, like it can't be this good. Something bad's gonna happen, and but we're also a very humble people, and we don't accept success very well. And we're
yeah.
like, we don't like we apologize for our success, and like when things are, oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing really good right now. So I feel like really conflicted. Like I'm blessed, and all these great things are happening, and I understand
Yeah.
like that's not the case for everybody. Um, so I kind of feel guilty that I'm blessed, but I also like we're trying to think of ways that we're able to help community out. And I'm working with some different organizations on um, putting together like some like online workshops and being able to pay artists to do some workshop, like film some workshops for us, and then like I have a tech like a Latino kind of organization that we'll work together. So we'll get an artist to film a video. They'll find someone that to video edit and things like that. So we're kind of in this one video. We're able to help an artist and someone that can do like kind of video editing and things like that, and just being creative on like how can we help our community and put some people to work. Since we're blessed.
That's a beautiful thing. Um, by the way, I put on like the best poetry workshops like in the country. But
We'll
so so
talk.
so we will talk. But,
Yeah.
but, but, But what you could offer our audience, what you could offer people watching and tuning in right now, is what is some practical advice? What should artists be doing in this moment to try and to what's some like some helpful tips? Like what just mindset should they be in order to not and to stay afloat?
Well, yeah, I actually was talking with an artist today. And they asked me that exact question, and I told them, one, I would give them specific like grants, like here, man, apply for this. Make sure you apply for this one, or this one, this one, this one, and they're very Seattle centric. But like Artist Trust, For Culture, Artswa, all have artist relief grants right now. Um, but as and then online stores try and sell work online, prints and things like that. Hopefully, you have already made prints, but try and sell some. There's t-shirt companies like Print Aura where basically if you get like an online order, you can just submit your design and they'll print and ship your shirts for you. So that way, kind of this whole social distancing, you don't have to have this go make some shirts. Like you can actually have your design preloaded, and when you get orders in, you can, um, send those out. And so there's options like that. But I've heard a lot of people be like, use this time to learn a new craft, and use this time to paint, and use this time to do that. Not all of us, have the kind of just the drive to do that right now, and that's okay, man. Like this is a damn pandemic. Like if you're depressed and like just like I don't have that motivation, like don't apologize for that. Like um, you know, paint and create when you're feeling it, and if you're not, don't apologize for it. It's okay. Um, this is nothing like this has ever happened, in my lifetime, and you know, I I'm old enough that I've experienced a couple, economic crisis, but nothing like this. And um, so yeah, it's be creative, think of unique ways. This generation knows how to use social media. This generation is savvy, tech savvy, and they know how to to use that to their benefit. So be creative and think of ways that you can stay relevant, online. And there's I know, like, I think it's Instagram. You can sell gift cards and stuff like that. Where you're like, if you have an Instagram business, I
Mhm.
haven't figured out how to do it,
Yeah.
but that's another way. Like if you sell gift cards, and when this is all over, then fulfill those gift cards.
Yeah. So I want to end on a more inspirational note than Instagram gift cards, right? Do you have some words of love and admiration or inspiration for la gente? I mean, you got some words for our people here.
Yeah, Instagram gift cards. um, like when I was I when I was in high school, and like I had mentioned, I had these art teachers tell me my art wasn't good enough. I had a teacher and a math teacher tell me that I would be shot and killed before I would ever graduate high school. Like so, I just had a lot of negative role models in life, right? Um, and that's going to happen to a lot of folks. And if people are telling you you're not good enough, that you shouldn't try, art doesn't make money, um, don't believe them. They're lying to you. You are good enough. You're smart enough to graduate high school. You're smart enough to graduate college. You're smart enough to get your degrees. You're good enough that you can be a talented artist. Um, all of that takes effort. All of that takes time. All of that takes practice. You have it in you to do it. It's just, do you have the ganas to do it, right? And if you're like I had said, like my first painting was a piece of shit, right? but each one got a little bit better. And 13 years later, I think I have some quality work. And no, like Dizzy Gillespie, I say like Dizzy Gillespie wasn't a famous trumpet player, like first time I picked up a trumpet, right? It took a lot of time, it took a lot of practice to get his skill to where it was. Like the guy was an amazing perfectionist. Like he had this work aesthetic that was just crazy. And it takes time to get there. Keep practicing and don't listen to negative folks. Um, and believe in yourself. And if you are happy, if your art makes you happy, you're doing it right. Another thing I get a lot is like, when do I call myself an artist? Like, and folks think that like there's gonna be this moment where the heavens part and like someone's gonna come up with a sword and knight you. Like, no, I knight you, artist. Like, it doesn't happen. Literally, the day you call yourself an artist, you're an artist. That's it. That's how it works. So believe in yourself, um, and you'll be okay. And art makes money.
As do Instagram cards. You heard it
Yes,
here.
do Instagram cards.
Jake Prendez. We'll drop the links below, jakeprendez.com. Is there a link to your gallery site as well, or can I
Yeah.
find that at your
So Instagram and Facebook for just my personal stuff is Jake Prendez and jakeprendez.com. And then our website and our Instagram for the gallery is Napantla Cultural Arts. So follow us. We got our website. You can order stuff on the website. Um, our Instagram. We're on our Instagram. We highlight a lot of different artists. So follow Napano Cultural Arts just to be exposed to a bunch of really amazing artists. And actually, right now, if you go to our website, the napantlaculturalarts.com, I have my Aztec codices, so the contemporary codices. I have coloring pages that you can download and print. So if you're bored and you want to color at home, you can do that. Um, we have our virtual gallery up as well. So, and the current exhibition, our current virtual gallery. We have it's a bunch of artists from around the country. So we have folks like Barbara Rivera, Emilia Cruz. Um, we have Ray Vargas. We have a bunch of just amazing artists from all over the country. And go to the website, the virtual gallery. They all have work in there. You click on it, and it takes you to their Instagram or websites and things like that. So it exposes a lot of those artists as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for your time, Jake. We actually already have the links below. My girlfriend, who's much better at certain things than I am, posted them for us. So that's tip my hat to you, and I thank you for your time.
All right, brother. It's good talking.
We'll talk more.
All right. Take care.